Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, my dear students. This is your class of History of English Literature. So this is your lecture number 1, MA English History of English Literature class. So my dear students, I am your teacher of this subject. So this is your introductory lecture to the history of English literature. Okay. So my dear students, as you know that you are students of MA English, so this is your core course in MA English. Okay, this is your compulsory course in MA English. So I would like to welcome you to the virtual campus Islamabad. Hope you'll be having a very nice experience with me while learning history of English literature. Okay. As I told you, this is your MA English class, semester 1. Course title is History of English Literature. Course code Eng402, and institute is ComSat's Virtual Campus Islamabad. Okay. First of all, this is very much important to introduce the instructor, because in order to develop that kind of relationship between student and teacher, so that is very much important. This is, my dear students, my introduction. I am Kiran Ruksana. My academic qualification you can see over here on this slide. I am a PhD scholar. I am doing my PhD in Applied Linguistics from National University of Modern Languages, Islamabad. Previously, I did my Masters in Language and Literature in 2006, and that Masters was from Fatima Jinnah Women University, Rawalpindi. After that, I did another Masters that was in English language teaching in year 2008. My dear students, I'm your instructor of History of English Literature. So, I am working as a lecturer in ComSat's Institute of Information Technology, Chakshazad campus, Islamabad. Along with that, I'm working as a visiting lecturer in Arid Agriculture University, Rawalpindi. Previously, I taught in FAST and UCES as well. So my dear students, that's all about me. Okay, I told you about my qualification along with my experience. Okay, so I'll be teaching you history of English literature. Okay, this is very much important. As you know, this is your first class, so introduction to the course is very much important. What this history of English literature basically is. Okay, so this is a brief sketch of the course, History of English Literature. The core objective of this course is to make students aware of the historical development of English literature, with its social, political, cultural and economical background, and its impact on literature through different eras. So my dear students, basically we'll be talking about history of English literature in relation to different eras. Then we'll do a comparative study side by side of different periods or eras in the history of English literature. So my dear students, what you have to keep in mind over here from this slide is this is historical development along with social, political, cultural and economical backgrounds. Okay, so this is basically historical development. So my dear students, this is not just to tell you the chronological history of English literature, like in this year that happened, or any kind of event, how far that is important as far as its age is concerned. Our focus would be on the development or the growth of English literature with the passage of time and the certain changes which took place in different centuries. So my dear students, you don't need to get worried about remembering different dates, too many dates, because English literature is comprised of too many centuries, so you don't need to get worried about it. Basically the concept must be clear to you. My dear students, one more thing which is very much important as far as history of English literature is concerned, you'll have to take it like a story. Okay, usually people think that history just talk about dates, about years and the important events over there. Basically we'll talk about those events as well, but what is the impact of all those events in the development of English literature. Okay, so This is basically the core or main or the primary objective of this course, to know about the historical development of English literature along with the other factors which are involved in the creation of literature, in the development of literature. Okay. Another objective of this course is to inform students about how English literature has evolved historically and how socio-cultural and political events have influenced its development through ages. So my dear students, again the development, and you could see the growth of English literature with the passage of time, the events which contributed in the creation of English literature, how the different happenings in the English society in different eras have influenced English literature. Okay, so this is another objective of this course. Although the scope of the course is quite expansive, starting from the age of Chaucer, the students shall focus on early 16th to late 19th century Romantic movement. So my dear students, here you can see we'll take a start from the age of Chaucer, okay? So, and then we'll gradually move towards 19th century literature, 16th century literature as well. Okay, so basically this is English literature has a very, very expansive history. Okay, and that is comprised of too many centuries. Okay. Histories of literature written by some British literary historians will be consulted to form some socio-cultural and political cross connections. So my dear students, here will refer to different histories which are written by British literary historians when they talked about history of English literature. Okay. The present course covers a reference to the multiple factors from economic theories to religious, philosophical and metaphysical debate that overlap these literary works of diverse nature and time period under multiple contexts. So my dear students, again the same thing is being repeated over here. What basically the point is this course will cover a reference to the multiple factors. So my dear students, the factors, the other factors or the elements which are involved in the creation of literature plus its development. Okay, so we'll talk about everything in detail. Okay, the reading of literature within its socio-cultural context will help the readers become aware of the fact that literary works are basically a referential product of the practice that go back to continuous interdisciplinary interaction. So my dear student, this study of history of literature is not only one discipline. We'll talk about history of English literature and we'll mix too many other disciplines with it. Okay, so my dear student, that is why we'll have a look on it from interdisciplinary perspective. Okay, when we talk about psychology, we'll talk about sociology, we'll talk about culture, we'll talk about politics of all the eras as well. So that is why we'll have an interdisciplinary approach towards studying literature in this class. Okay, so my dear students, you would be thinking what is basically the benefit of teaching you English literature or the history of English literature. So let me discuss some of the advantages of teaching literature. Okay, and then we'll go for history of English literature as well. Okay, literature can be very enjoyable to read. So dear students, literature touches your senses. Okay, so basically this is the depiction of the society, depiction of nature, that's all about imagination. So that is very much enjoyable to read. So this is you can say the basic purpose of teaching literature or of studying literature. You use it for pleasure purposes in order to read out a story or in order to go for understanding the styles of different authors. Okay, so basically that's for pleasure purposes, that is for the sake of enjoyment. Okay, the other one is it provides examples of different styles of writing, mirrors various authentic uses of the language. So dear students, here you can say, as I told you, in order to know about the different styles of writing, okay, and in order to go for using the authentic use of language. What basically is the authentic use of language or authentic language? The language which is used by the native speakers of any country. Okay, so dear students, like as you know, English is the native or the mother tongue of the English people, definitely. So definitely when you read about their literature, when you study literature, so definitely you'll have to go for authentic material. You can utilize that material later on in your classes as well. So dear students, here basically you can have an exposure to the authentic language or the first hand language. So this is basically the first hand experience of language. Okay, so here our focus is on different styles plus on authentic use of language. That's the first hand experience of language. Okay, so anything which is in front of you, like for example a book that is in front of you, so my dear students, you can read that book. So definitely basically you are not listening to those people, but that is recorded in form of book. So you can have a look on you can say the mother tongue. Okay, like people who are using English as a mother tongue. Okay, it is a good basis for vocabulary expansion. So dear students, reading basically provides the basis for, you can say, your writing. Okay, so dear students, if you are good in reading, if you are habitual of reading the things, so with the passage of time it would definitely enhance your vocabulary. And then when it comes to writing, so definitely you won't be facing that problem of you can say lack of vocabulary, or when you think that you do not have sufficient words to express your thoughts in a good way. So literature is very much helpful as far as your vocabulary expansion is concerned. Okay, it fosters reading skills. So definitely when you talk about language skills, so reading is a receptive skill. So dear students, it would definitely polish your reading skill as well. Definitely you are you can say involved in that reading, so you can say you'll be able to know about reading techniques like skimming, scanning, making inferences, or you can say making your judgment on the text. Okay, so you'll be able to, you know, adopt everything like the writing style of the writer later on in your writings as well. Okay, so definitely you can polish your reading plus writing skills by reading literature. Okay, it can supply an excellent jump off point for discussion or writing. So definitely you when you are reading something, so it becomes part of your experience that is stored in your background memory. So dear students, with the passage of time, when you you face any kind of problem, or when you are discussing something with anybody, so dear students, definitely you'll be having more points. Okay, so you have more vocabulary items, you have many ideas to discuss, and you have variety of thoughts to write down as well. Okay, so here dear students, you are not an active reader only, like you're just reading anything, any literary piece of work for the sake of appearing in the exams only. So my dear students, here basically your focus is on like you can have a debate on that topic, and you can have a variety of points relevant to any kind of topic. So here when you read literature, so with the passage of time you realize like everything is part of your experience, so you become quite mature with the passage of time. Okay, it involves emotions as well as intellect, which adds to motivation and may contribute to personal development. So my dear students, for your personal development, for your individual development, definitely literature is very much important. So it definitely touches your emotion and in your intellect as well. So dear students, it is not only about the emotional words, about the feelings only. Definitely your creativity is also involved here, your thinking is involved. So my dear students, literature touches your heart as well as your mind. Okay, so it makes you creative, it makes you full of emotions, full of passions, enthusiastic. Okay, so dear students, for the personal development, reading literature is very much important. So you might have seen people in your society as well, like in your surroundings, like those who study anything, like for example any kind of novels or even newspapers. So they are quite mature because they are quite aware of what is happening in this society. So when you talk about English literature, so it has a rich variety, it has a certain phases. Okay, so with the passage of time, when you start reading, you can say, different literary works which were present in any particular era, so you would realize like you're familiar with the many styles of writing plus many themes plus many societies. Okay, it is part of the target language culture and has a value as part of students' general education. So dear students, wherever English is common, like we are studying English or you are promoting English, so definitely you'll have to promote the culture of that society as well. So where is the depiction of that culture, where is the record of that culture that is there in literature? So when English, for example, is your target language, so you'll have to promote literature that is written by the people of you can say that very language. Okay, so it is basically a part of students' general education as well. So my dear students, it does not mean like you are promoting English literature because that's you can say the literature written by the people of English language, or you can say people who use English language as a mother tongue or who possess English language. It's not the case. It's for general education as well. For example, in order to make your students aware of anything, like for example, when you talk about world wars, so where to find out the records of the world war? Definitely when you go for analyzing the movies which are relevant to World War I, II. So dear students, definitely those are the edited version. Okay, so when you talk about literature, like the writers who were writing during that era, so definitely the true picture of world wars would be present there in their works. Okay, so that is like in order to make you aware, in order to analyze the things and to look at the things from different perspectives and then to criticize that thing. Like these are some of the advantages of teaching English literature. Okay, another advantage of English literature is it encourages empathetic, critical and creative thinking. It contributes to world knowledge. So dear students, what basically empathy is, when you put yourself on the position of the writer or on the position of any person who is experiencing any kind of thing. Okay, so here like you can say you become familiar, you can say the concept of empathy over here, like if somebody is facing any kind of trouble, so if you are on that place, so what would be your feelings at that time? Critical and creative thinking. So dear students, as I told you, like you start looking at the things from different dimensions, so it evokes your critical thinking and your creative thinking as well. So my dear students, will be dealing with criticism as well as a genre in the history of English literature. So my dear students, here when you talk about critical and creative thinking, so when you are critical, then you become creative. So according to many critics, like if you are not critical, or if you do not analyze the things, if you do not give your own judgment about anything, you cannot be creative. Then you just go for you can say the surface meaning of anything. So when you read literature, definitely you compare the writings, you compare different themes. Okay, like if, when you talk about different societies in England, for example, as far as English literature is concerned, so definitely it evokes your critical thinking as well as your creative thinking as well. So criticality, or you can say your criticism would lead you towards creative thinking. So you can never be creative if you are not critical. So my dear students, here one more concept of English literature is very much important, that is your imagination. So according to some experts, like if you're not imaginative, you can never be creative. So here imagination and then your judgment, everything is very much important in creative thinking. Okay, it contributes to world knowledge. So dear students, here when you talk about your broader knowledge of the world, so definitely it would contribute in the world knowledge. You get to know about different people all over the world. For example, when you read Scottish literature or Canadian literature, so definitely that's a full-fledged history. So dear students, here you'll be able to compare the things which are common in certain, you can say, cultures or in societies, or on the other hand, if you go for you can say finding out the differences or opposites in different cultures, so you'll be able to do that easily if you read literature. Okay, it raises awareness of different human situations and conflicts. So as we were talking about the trends and the traditions of different societies and cultures all over the world, so here is one more concept, that is of you can say an awareness of human situations and conflicts. So basically when you read literature, so gradually it becomes part of your long-term memory. So gradually it becomes part of your long-term memory. Okay, so in this way you can get to know about different human situations, like when people, they were suffering from you can say war, or you can say when they were suffering from any disease, any particular disease which was common in any particular society, so what was basically their situation at that time, or conflicts as well, like what are different conflicting points, or you can say different disputing points in different societies. Okay, so you can say like the common values of all societies, those are very much similar. Okay, for example, honesty, or you can say speaking truth. So here you can say on all the societies these are very much common. No society, you can say all over the world, promotes telling lies, or you can say dishonesty. So here, dear students, what are basically the conflicting points, you can get to know about those points in literature. Okay, it provides a basis for communicative activities involving the four skills. So dear students, here literature, we are not separating literature and linguistics here in this discussion. Here we'll have to go in a simultaneous way. Okay, here we have to go in a parallel way. Okay, so dear students, when you talk about the impact of literature on linguistics or on your language, so that is very much important. Okay, how? Because it enhances your vocabulary, plus you get to know about different writing styles, so you can adopt those styles while writing anything. You become you can say familiar with the writing styles. Okay, dear students, how literature is helpful as far as your reading skills are concerned, like you become familiar with skimming, scanning, making inferences, okay, or to write down the central idea of any novel, any poem, so you become familiar with it. Okay, so dear students, as far as your speaking skills are concerned, so definitely you can say when you talk about literature, so usually people think that is restricted to reading and writing skills only. You read out something and then you apply it in your writing. It's not the case. Okay, this is you can say a full set of imagination that is set in your mind. When you read out the dialogues which are present in any novel, so definitely you just don't read it, that is like inform that, as you know that that's dialogue, so definitely you imagine that somebody is talking to you and you are involved in the discussion. So definitely there would be certain responses from the other party as well, so it would enhance your listening and your speaking skills as well. So here, dear students, when we talk about the four skills in language, so these four skills are reading, writing, listening and speaking. So dear students, let me tell you like two skills, reading and listening, these are the receptive skills. Okay, and two skills, speaking and writing, these are the productive skills. So if you are not good in receiving the things in a good way, if you're not a good receiver, so definitely you cannot polish your productive skills. Okay, so in order to you can say enjoy literatures, definitely you read it, so you become very good in writing. Okay, so when you listen to something, so with the passage of time, for example, if you want to improve your pronunciation, so definitely you cannot do it in your dreams only or while reading anything. Definitely you'll have to listen to the native speakers of that very language in order to polish your pronunciation or to adopt any particular kind of accent. Okay, it provides an opportunity for negotiation of meaning, which is essential for FLA. So here, dear students, what is FLA? This is foreign language acquisition. Okay, What is this FLA? This is foreign language acquisition. Okay, so dear students, like you try to guess meanings of something, okay, in form of like something is in front of you in form of literature, so definitely you infer meanings. Okay, so here dear students, you come up with your own interpretations or your own judgment of meaning. Definitely when you are reading something like for example any novel by you can say Henry Fielding, for example, so definitely every time you won't go to check the meaning in dictionary, so it would enhance your habit of inferring meanings from the text. Okay, so that is very much important. So here literature gives you an opportunity to negotiate meanings, okay, to infer meaning, to guess the meaning, okay, what are basically the possible meanings over here. So dear students, here you can have a variety of meanings. You are not just restricted to dictionary meaning only, so you can go in any dimension. So it all depends upon your perception, background, or you can say your experience, okay, the way you interpret the meaning. So with the passage of time you become confident as well, and you can improve your vocabulary. Why literature is important? Due to its cultural value. Okay, let me tell you why culture is important in the formulation of text. So my dear students, when we will be talking about different eras in the history of English literature, so you would see a clear, you can say, depiction of culture of the society on literature. Okay, what basically is the overall environment of the society, what was the typical thinking of the people at that time. Okay, so everything would be there. Stories have been of central importance to the human race even since it began. As far as we can tell, cultures are built on stories, histories, myths and legends, fables, religion and so on. So dear students, here you can see like when you talk about stories, so those stories are about past. Okay, so dear students, you get to know about different cultures in those stories. Okay, what were basically the trends of any particular society, that is very much present there in the stories. Okay, if students are to understand and participate in the culture to which they belong, they must first learn about the stories that culture has been built around. And while books are not the only kinds of stories out there, they are one of the most important. So those stories are stored in books. So my dear students, you can read out the stories in order to be part of that very culture or society. So stories are very much important. That is your first hand experience about the culture as well. Okay, so stories are not necessarily written. You can say listen to the stories from somebody. So dear students, here you can say like the stories which are stored in form of writing, so those are more authentic as compared to the stories which are told by somebody. Okay, expanding horizons. Okay, so dear students, here you can see like you can have a broader perspective about any culture, any society here. Okay, everyone has a tendency to get so caught up in their own lives that they forget what's going on in the world around them. As children and teens are particularly prone to this. It's the goal of education to expose them to ideas from other cultures, to teach them about the histories and peoples of other times and places. So you can see during the modern era, we are not, you can say, inclined towards reading literature. Why? Because this is a very busy world, and you can say we don't have much time to listen to the stories, to read out the stories as such. So in order to make your children aware of something, so definitely developing a reading habit is very much important. Okay, so in this way, when you teach them literature, or when you ask them to read out literature, so definitely it would expand their experiences, and it would be very helpful for them when they experience the same thing in future. Okay, Building vocabulary, as I told you when we were talking about the advantages of teaching literature, so definitely this is a very important point, okay? Building vocabulary. Having a large and wide-ranging vocabulary is essential for a number of reasons. It helps with both writing and reading abilities, of course, but it also allows for more complex discourse. The larger your vocabulary is, the more in-depth and thoughtful discussions you can have on important topics and issues, both in and outside of the classroom. When people speak, they tend to use a fairly limited vocabulary, so the best way to become exposed to new words is to read. So dear students, when you read out literature, so definitely it expands your vocabulary, okay, and then you can have more useful discussions, debates on any particular kind of topic, so there won't be any kind of repetition in your discussions as such. So how can you enhance your vocabulary? That is by reading literature, okay? So you can build up your vocabulary, you can have a, you can say, you'll be able to comprehend the things in more complex discourses as well, like when there are certain situations when you think the language which is being used, that is very complex. So if you are habitual of reading literature, so definitely it would be very much helpful for you to understand those discourses, okay? So dear students, this, what do we mean by discourse here? That is basically language in use, okay? So dear students, by keeping in view all these things, you can see that how literature is important in your life, okay? Improving writing skills, as I told you, like reading literature, that would enhance your vocabulary, so ultimately it would improve your writing skills. As you know, reading is a receptive skill, so it provides the basis for writing skills. So my dear students, in order to improve your reading skills, you have to be good in reading the things as well. Writing skills can be taught to some extent, but the number one way to become a better writer is to read often. When you read, you are being immersed in language in the way it sounds and feels when put together in the right ways. Students who are encouraged to read have a more intimate knowledge of the ways in which language works, and so have an advantage when it comes time for them to write. This effect can even be made transparent by encouraging students to try writing in a particular book or author style. So dear students, you might have seen people around you, like those who are good in writing, they are definitely good in reading as well. So reading provides you the basis for the writing skills. So in order to adopt any particular kind of style, definitely you'll have to read. In order to enhance your vocabulary, you have to read. So literature is very much important in order to have a first-hand knowledge of the language, plus to enhance your vocabulary and to improve your writing skills. Literature is not just teaching for the sake of teaching, it evokes your critical thinking, okay? So basically when you teach literature, that is teaching critical thinking, okay? Education is supposed to give students the tools they need to become a valuable part of society, and one such tool is the ability to think critically. We want them to not just passively consume whatever is around them, but to analyze and criticize it as well. Literature serves this goal in a couple of ways. Many novels encourage critical thinking on their own due to the issues and themes they explore. So dear students, literature leads you towards critical thinking. So when you analyze something, when you are an active observer of the things while reading anything, definitely it evokes your critical thinking here, okay? So literature is not just for the sake of pleasure purposes, like you are reading it for enjoyment only. It evokes your critical thinking, it you can say it develops your creativity as well, okay? So here dear students, like you can see while analyzing a novel or while reading a novel, so you can challenge the things, so there is an element of resistance here while reading literature as well. So dear students, as you know, literature is a valuable part of society, so definitely you can have more experiences of life while reading literature. As I told you before, like when you read literature, so that becomes part of your background memory, of your, you can say, of your long-term memory as well. So definitely with the passage of time, when you face any kind of problem in your life, so literature would be very much helpful for you at that time. So my dear students, these are some of the benefits of teaching literature. Just to remove your confusion over here, you might be thinking what is basically the purpose of teaching you history of English literature or literature. So I told you some of the benefits of teaching you history of English literature or English literature otherwise. So my dear students, one of the most important benefits of teaching you history of English literature is that you will be familiar with the different writing styles and different themes which were present in different eras in the history of English literature, plus the development of English language and English literature with the passage of time in different centuries. So we'll take a start from the ancient phase in the history of English literature, and then you can see till today how far English language has evolved, plus English literature. So dear students, basically the focus would be on you can say the development of English literature and the different trends which are common in any particular society, and how those trends are different from any other era in the history of English literature. So these are some of the points which you have to keep in mind while studying English literature. Okay, so dear students, literature is not just for you can say the sake of studying any course. Okay, so this it would be very much helpful for you as far as your daily life is concerned, because with the passage of time, when you read out literature, so it becomes part of your long-term memory. So when you experience something in your future, so definitely you take help from that background memory. Okay, my dear students, so far I just wanted to build your background knowledge of literature, the questions which might be confusing for you. Okay, my dear students, so far we have talked about what are basically the objectives of teaching this course to you people. As I told you, this is not just a chronological account of looking at different dates, in history, and go back to the medieval ages or the Renaissance period or something. So, my dear students, you at this moment you will be confused about these terminologies which I am using, okay, about medieval literature or about Renaissance or Elizabethan age, or you can say the Restoration period. So because you might not be familiar with these ages so far. So my dear students, what we have discussed so far, that is about objectives of this course. What is basically the purpose behind teaching this course is to make you aware about English literature, along with its historical development with the passage of time in different centuries, plus we'll focus on different ages, okay, or different periods in the history of English literature as well. So we'll look at just sociological factors of that very society, along with the cultural factors, plus the religious debate that was going on in any particular society, okay, and the political circumstances of the country as well. Then we'll see like how those factors, like literature is at the center of the table, and all these factors, they are very much involved in creation of literature. So while analyzing, my dear students, any literary work, by keeping in view all the factors which are involved in the creation of literature, so the things would be very easy for you to understand. So my dear students, again you would be confused that why we are studying the history of English literature, why not anything which is which is practical or which is applicable in today's society. So my dear students, basically you could see, like when you know the historical context, what was basically happening in any particular century, so definitely it would formulate your thinking about literature, and it would really be helpful for you in analyzing any novel, any poem, any drama, or any essay. So everything would be helpful for you. So my dear students, again I just want to develop your critical thinking over here, okay? Like there must be an element of creativity over here when we talk about history of English literature, okay? So I'm just setting your background knowledge relevant to English literature. So this course would really be helpful for you when you will do the analysis of different genres in English literature, okay? Overview of the lecture today. In this class we will discuss what basically literature is, okay, and then history of English literature, periods in the history of English literature, and then the division of those periods. My dear students, we'll just take a start from the definition of literature, okay, and then we'll go particularly for what history of English literature is, and certain ages are there, certain, you can say, certain periods are there in the history of English literature, because that is comprised of too many centuries. So we have given those centuries and those eras, specific eras, certain names. So my dear students, here we'll just talk about English literature in general terms, okay. So my dear students, history is the biography. On the other hand, when we talk about literature, so that is the autobiography, because nobody else writes autobiography. That is the person himself who writes it. So in order to look at the culture, or you can say the sociological issues of any society, so that is the true reflection of the society. On the other hand, you can say like many events which are important in history, so somebody can just talk about those events only. So here, my dear students, when you talk about literature, for example, poetry, novel, drama of any specific era, so that is the autobiography, because it speaks itself about that very culture, okay. So when you talk about different nations of the world, so definitely, again, if you want to know about them, so literature serves the purpose of autobiography, okay, like what basically is there in that very society. So for example, in order to know about English nation, so what are basically the characteristics of that nation, so you could see it in autobiography plus in biography, that would be present in history and literature both, okay. So what is literature? That is expression of life in terms of truth and beauty. So my dear students, what basically literature is, then we'll move towards history of English literature. What is basically that history? Literature basically is the expression of life. So in the very first line you could see, this is the expression of life, okay, and in terms of truth and beauty. Literature is a true depiction of life, okay, so that is based on the facts and figures of the society along with the beautiful elements of the society. So my dear students, here this is a very optimistic approach towards studying literature, okay. So basically, my dear students, this is a written record of man's spirit, thoughts, aspiration and emotion. So my dear students, here we are talking about man again. Previously that was life, so here this is man. So this is a written, you can say, record of man's spirit, okay, about his emotions, aspirations and you can say thoughts as well. So in order to know about any nation, so definitely if you read out the literature relevant to that very nation, so you could see like the common thoughts or the common emotions of that very nation in that form of literature, okay. So what are basically the qualities of literature? So we talked about literature roughly, like what basically literature is, okay. So that is a true depiction of life. So literature and life are part and parcel for each other. If something which is not lively, or you can say which is a dead thing, so we cannot say that is literature. So this is about society, this is about culture, this is about people, this is about human natures, and this is about human behavior, this is about human relationships in the society. So literature is what that is life. So my dear students, here you can see like these are three qualities of literature. This has an artistic quality, so this is a work of art, so definitely it is written in a specific manner, okay. So my dear students, you'll be thinking that how can we say that literature has the suggestive quality? For example, as you could see, like it is based on the experiences of other people. So literature definitely guides you, it definitely suggests you what to do and what to do, not to do. For example, when we talk about Shakespearean tragedies, so my dear students, like when we talk about Greek tragedies, or Shakespearean tragedies, so in that way you'll get to know about different characters, like if they do something wrong, so what would happen to them. So definitely it would be very helpful for you to take any kind of decision in your future based on your experience. So my dear students, literature is interactive as well. This is not something which is passive and you keep on reading and you don't get anything. So the reader's response is also very much important. So basically that with the passage of time, when you with the passage of time, cut kar dein. So my dear students, when you read literature, so that becomes part of your long-term memory, and you could say you start saving the things in your mind. So next time in your future, when you are in that kind of trouble, or when you are in that kind of context, so definitely you'll be able to use your background knowledge over there. So this is basically an exercise as far as your background knowledge is concerned. Okay, so my dear students, here you'll be thinking like why this permanent quality is very much essential for making any piece of writing literature. I just want to clarify this concept with an example. For example, when you read Shakespearean tragedies, for example, or when you read Canterbury Tales by Chaucer, for example, or you can say All the World is Staged by Shakespeare, so definitely it would be there in your mind for years. Okay, this is one thing that is relevant to a reader. For example, if any reader is not interested in any writer, so definitely that is not having any kind of permanent quality. My dear students, I'll relate this concept with another one, that is an element of universality, and we'll go for that one, so we'll relate it with this one. My dear students, permanent quality means like with the after centuries or after many years, that piece of literature would be very popular. Okay, popular in a sense because that is a depiction of the real life of the people. So definitely it would be universal, and it would be there in that society or worldwide for a certain period of time. That is why after many years we can say like that part of writing is literature or not. So my dear students, by keeping in view these three qualities of literature, we'll move forward. Okay, tests of literature. How can you say that anything is literature or not? Okay, 2 points are very much important. One is universality and the other one is style. My dear students, by keeping in view universality, the previous one, permanent quality, here literature is universal. It is not restricted to any particular region. It is not restricted to any specific period of time. So my dear students, when you talk about literature, even literature that was written back in 18th century, 16th century, so that is still even popular today. So my dear student, this is an element which should be there when we call any piece of writing literature. The other one is style. As far as style is concerned, so every literary genre has its own particular style. Although we cannot say that style is very much we cannot say that style is very much restricted to that genre, and we cannot violate the rules of any literary genre. So this is not necessary, but literature, you can test literature on the basis of universality, that it is universally accepted. For example, when you talk about English literature, so we are living in East, we are living in South Asia, so that is a product of Europe, my dear student, but still it is you can say commonly used literature over here in South Asia as well. Okay, so as far as style is concerned, for example, you can say like any writing is a piece of literature if that is written in an appropriate style. For example, when you talk about Wordsworth's style, so you could see like his style is quite romantic, or the themes which he has adopted in his poems, so those are relevant to beauty, to nature, to human relations, to human nature most of the time. So basically you can test literature on the basis of universality and on style. Okay, so my dear students, here we use literature in order to teach our students. For example, this is, you can say, like what is basically the purpose behind teaching English literature is that like we are promoting English language, plus English society or English people, they are also trying to be more powerful in the whole world. So by spreading up literature, you can be powerful, okay, and you can promote your language, plus you can promote your writings, your writers, okay. But apparently when we discuss what are basically the objectives of literature, so these are two purposes. One is to teach and the other one is to delight. This is for pleasure purposes, okay. What are basically the aims in studying literature? This is to know about human beings, to know about their souls, to know about their actions, okay, in any particular era, okay. So basically, my dear students, through characterization, you could say, like we talk about certain human beings. We like any character, we do not like any character, we hate, sometimes we hate characters as well. So what is this? That is the representation of reality in terms of literature, in terms of written words, okay. The other thing is to know about their souls, okay. So my dear students, here I am referring back to the previous point, that is what basically are the aims in studying literature. So this is a true depiction of life. This is about human beings, this is about their attributes, this is about their nature, and about their relationships in the society. So here this is basically about human beings. This is about, to know about their souls and to know about their deeds and actions. For example, when we talk about any hero of the play, for example, so you could say, like on the basis of his actions, so we get to know about his soul, okay. But later on the later stage, if he has to face some kind of bad consequences just because of his actions, so definitely he is responsible for action. So this is ultimately to control your own actions and to know about your soul as well. So this is you can say a realization of your own soul, a realization of your own actions, your own deeds, okay. Why literature is very much important in any society? Because that is an autobiography of the society, that is a reflection of that very society, its people and its culture, okay. So every civilization is founded upon ideals. So there are many certain ideals in in every society. Every human action springs from an ideal. There are some ideals in a particular society, and all the people of this society, they imitate those ideals. So basically the purpose of literature is to preserve those ideals, okay, and then to represent them in front of the society, okay. Literature preserves civilizations and human actions. So where to find out the record of any civilization? For example, Roman civilization, they introduced a very good culture in the English society. They were very civilized. They built too many buildings, too many roads, and they promoted literature as well, okay. The very concept of civilized word was brought by Roman empires in English society. So where is that record that is present in literature, and that is about human actions as well? For example, when we talk about Victorian society, what kind of society they had, or when we talk about Romantic society or Anglo-Saxon society, Anglo-Norman society. So my dear students, time and again I'm repeating some of the terminologies in front of you, so you'll be familiar with the terms at least, and then I'll define what do we mean by certain periods in the history of English literature. So according to my point of view, these 4 points are very much important as far as the importance of English literature or any other literature is concerned. My dear students, here you'll have to keep in mind, we're not talking about English literature. This is literature in every society. So it preserves the civilization, and it preserves ideals, and it preserves human actions, okay. So you'll definitely get to know about human actions even after centuries, okay. So that is a kind of a record of everything of the society, okay. History of English literature. Now gradually we are moving towards history of English literature, which is basically the main concern of this course. This is not a chronological account of books written in English language. So my dear students, here we are not focusing on English language or not year by year description of different events in a book, okay. So we'll talk about like the historical development of English literature with the passage of time. So basically this is the purpose of this course. The literature of England is one of the highest achievement of a great nation. It should not, however, be read simply as a national expression. It is a body of significant statements about abiding human concerns. The language in which it is written has evolved over hundreds of years and is still changing. Several nations, including Canada, the United States, and Australia, are indebted to England for a literary heritage. So my dear students, on this slide you can see the importance of English language along with English literature. Okay, so basically English language is quite a flexible language, and it has evolved over you can say hundreds of years. So my dear student, it is still changing. That is why this is not at all a dead language. So it has the flexibility, and it has the capacity to digest the words from different other languages as well. So that is why with the passage of time, so that is why this is the world's language. So my dear students, here you can see like many countries like Canada, the United States, Australia, they are very much indebted to England for our literary heritage. So this is quite an expansive course. Okay, so my dear students, here you can say like English people, they have quite an expansive literary heritage. Okay, हिस्ट्री ऑफ इंग्लिश लिटरेचर अगेन को कट कर दें. हिस्ट्री ऑफ इंग्लिश लिटरेचर जो बोला है उसको भी कट कर दें. It is basically a record of the relationship between a writer and those who precede or succeed him or her. It is a record of the relationship between age and age. It is a record of the influence of individual writers on an age and vice versa. A record of both individual writers and their special contributions to literature. So my dear students, here you can see in the first point, this is basically a relationship between a writer and those who precede or succeed him or her. Okay, and the other one, this is a relationship between age and age. So it talks about the rise, the growth, and the decline of schools and movements. Okay, and the third point is like a record of the influence of individual writers on an age or vice versa, and both individual writers and their special contribution to literature. So my dear students, basically history of English literature deals with all these concepts. This is not a year by year description of different events in the society or different centuries in the society, what happened in that century and what is happening right now. It's not like that. This is a relationship of a writer and those who succeed him. Okay, and this is again a relationship of different ages. So basically it talks about the characteristic features of any particular age and its relationship with other ages as well. Okay, so basically it talks about the rise, the growth of any school, or you can say any movement. Okay, so this is like we'll be talking about different ages in detail in in the next lecture. So my dear students, you will be able to know about those ages in detail that time. Okay, so basically this is influence of individual writers on any particular age and vice versa, like how that age had influenced that writer. So basically it is a kind of debate on writers' contribution in that particular era, and the influence of that age on writer's personality on his or her writings as well. Okay, so it is a record of both individual writers and their special contribution to literature. So my dear student, this is like we'll talk about individual writers, we'll focus on their personalities and their contribution in any specific era in the history of English literature as well. Okay, aims of history of English literature. So basically we use history of English literature to give a clear account of whole transformation of literature from period to period. So my dear students, when we talk about history of English literature, so there will be too many changes which would happen with the passage of time when we compare different ages or different periods in the history of English literature. So my dear students, it is a study to explain those successive changes as far as their matter, form and spirit are concerned. So my dear students, basically our focus would be on all these things. Okay, so this is an interdisciplinary approach where we mix too many disciplines together in one discipline only. Okay, What basically are periods? So I started my discussion with the period today, what are like different eras or different ages. So basically let me tell you what do we mean by period. A period is a certain length of time during which a particular kind of taste prevails. So this is the definition of a period in history. A taste of an age differs from that of others. So my dear students, here will categorize different periods. So basically this is a certain length of time during which a particular kind of taste prevails. So all the people, for example, when they live in a particular society, so definitely they face same kind of problems and they usually have the same taste as well. So my dear students, a literature written in an age is marked by various common features like its subject matter, thought, tone and style. So my dear students, we get to know that the style, the thought, or you can say the subject matter of that era is very much you can say common among all the writers of that very age. Each age had its own particular lines of interest and its own particular way of thinking and feeling about things. So my dear student, that is why we have divided certain centuries, certain periods into ages. Okay, so what basically is that certain you can say length of time during which one kind of taste prevails, and you could see like the same subject matter is common there, the same tone would be there, the same thought would be there. Okay, so basically this is a kind of classifying certain periods. Okay, factor deciding a period. So my dear students, here you might be confused like how can we decide any kind of period, because there are too many periods in the history of English literature. So I'll explain to you what are basically the factors which are involved in deciding a period. Anything that brings fresh ideas and interest into the life of an age, so definitely we would say that would be another period. So my dear students, when we will be talking about different ages in the history of English literature, so dear students, you'll be able to know like about different tastes relevant to different eras. Okay, anything that modifies the thought and feeling of a period. So my dear students, here you can say like when we enter into next period, for example right now we are here in one period, so we are going to enter in the next period. So what would be that, like fresh feelings would be coming, fresh ideas would be coming, fresh style would be there. So there would be a modification of the previous thoughts, previous feelings and previous styles, a change in the attitude towards men and things. So basically due to certain sociological events, for example the cultural activities which are going on in any particular society, okay, and how do all those activities influence the mind of the people, of the writers, of the readers. So definitely, so my dear students, here you can see like will change our attitude towards man and things relevant to any particular era. What are basically the labels of different periods? The period in the history of English literature are usually labeled with the epithets derived from history. For example, Elizabethan period, at that time Queen Elizabeth was ruling England, or the Victorian period, for example Queen Victoria was ruling England during that period. So we have given their names to different periods. Okay, so basically these are the labels of periods as well. Okay, so my dear students, now I'll introduce all the periods of the history of English literature in front of you. So this is just year-wise description of the period. So we'll talk about all those periods in detail in the next lectures. Okay, so here this is just a briefing of all those periods that you get to know about at least the names of those periods. My dear students, here you can see like the Anglo-Saxon period, which is the very first period in the history of English literature. So you could see it was started in year 449 and it was ended in 1100. It is comprised of many centuries. Okay, before Britain before the Anglo-Saxons. So my dear students, here when we will be talking about the Anglo-Saxon period, so you could see like we'll talk about the history of Britain before Anglo-Saxons. Okay, so here my dear students, here let me briefly guide you like who were basically the inhabitants before Anglo-Saxon period in Britain. So Celts were the inhabitants of that time, so about whom very little is known. Okay, so my dear students, this is I'll guide you about Britain before the Anglo-Saxon period, then the Germanic invasions, then Anglo-Saxon society, what kind of society they had at that time, and then we'll gradually move towards Anglo-Saxon literature. So my dear students, here our focus would be on the Anglo-Saxon period, okay, and we'll spend a full-fledged lecture on the Anglo-Saxon period. Okay, the second period in the history of English literature is medieval period. My dear students, you'll have to keep in mind that the taste, or you can say the subject matter, the style which was very common in the Anglo-Saxon period, here you won't be able to find it. So that is why we have categorized different periods and we have given them certain names. Okay, the medieval period, it was started right after the Anglo-Saxon period, and the year is 1100 and it was ended in 1500. Okay, so again a very long period. So you'll get to know about the Norman conquest during this period. That was the reign of William the Conqueror, and the feudal system was also very much common during that period. Okay, so then we'll talk about the medieval church as far as the religious factors of that very era are concerned, and then we'll gradually move towards the medieval literature. Okay, the third period in the history of English literature is the Renaissance period, and it was started in 1500 and was ended in 1600. So my dear students, this is comprised of whole full-fledged century, and this is also known as Elizabethan age, because Queen Elizabeth was ruling at that time. Okay, my dear students, there is one more name for this Renaissance period, that is the age of Shakespeare, because Shakespeare was the most prominent personality of that era. Okay, the other one is the Puritan age. So we'll talk about the Puritan thoughts during that era. So you can see this is comprised of 60 years. Okay, the fifth one. 1, 2, 3. The fifth one is the Restoration period, and it was ended right after the Puritan age in 1660 and was ended in 1700. So my dear students, here you can say like this Restoration period is comprised of 40 years. Okay, then comes the age of Pope. 1, 2, 3. Then comes the age of Pope, that was started in 1700 and was ended in 1744. So my dear students, here you'll see like we have given these names to certain period or certain ages due to the influence of some eminent writers on that very age. So here you can see that this is the age of Pope, and this is also known as 17th century literature. Okay, so it was started in 1700 and was ended in 1744. Okay, the age of Johnson, again a part of 18th century literature. So Johnson was the most prominent figure among other writers, so that is why we have given his name to this very age, and that age was started in 1744 and was ended in 1784. Okay, then the eighth one is the Romantic age. So my dear students, here we'll take a start of the Romantic age from the year 1798, and it would be ended in 1824. So my dear students, then we'll after the age of Johnson. My dear students, the eighth one is the Romantic age, that was officially started in 1798 and it was ended in 1824. So my dear students, here you can say like the elements of romantic spirit would be too much present over there previously, like when we were talking about the age of Pope, age of Johnson, Elizabethan age. So everything was according to the rules, and subject matter was quite limited, and people, they were not supposed to cross the limitations of writing poetry, so they had to bind themselves within certain rules and regulations. So when we move towards the Romantic age, so my dear students, here you can see this is an age of freedom, this is an age of liberty. People, poets, they were not restricted to focus on form as such, on style of writing as such, rather they were more concerned with theme or the subject matters. So my dear student, let me share some of the things of the Romantic age with you people. The Romantic age focuses on beauty, on nature, on human beings, and on their relationships. So basically here you can say during the Romantic age, human being is on the center of the discussion. Okay, so instead of focusing on form, on the rules and regulations which you need to follow while writing poetry, so you could see in the Romantic age, my dear students, people, they focused on subject matter and on themes. One more thing I would like to share with you people about the Romantic age is that we'll have to give priorities to different genres in different eras as well. My dear students, here when we talk about the Romantic age, so you could see poetry was on the very top position over here. Okay, so we'll talk about different romantic poets in detail. Okay, the Victorian age, when Queen Victoria was ruling England, so that age was started in 1832 and was ended in 1900. So my dear students, we'll be talking about the Victorian age in detail. So you can see we'll divide Victorian age into two parts. One would be the first half of the Victorian age and the other one is the later half of the Victorian age. So you'll see the differences as far as the subject matter of both the parts are concerned. Okay, as far as the subject matters of both the parts are concerned. Okay, modern literature. Okay, after the Victorian age, you could see modern literature, and the tradition of writing modern literature was started in 1900 and was ended in 1961. So my dear students, here we'll talk about different modern writers, okay, and what was basically their philosophy and how their philosophy was different from the Victorian period or from the Romantic period or from the Elizabethan period or from, you can say, Anglo-Saxon period. So my dear students, here you could see we'll enter into a new philosophy in the history of English literature when we'll be talking about modern literature. Okay, then postmodern literature, my dear students, here after modern literature, you could see at that time, my dear students, let me give you briefing of modern literature. That was an age of scientific inventions, scientific advancements, technology was on the very top. So my dear students, later on they used to have scientific formulas everywhere, even in literature. So my dear students, at that time they focused on science a lot and they were in search of objective reality or of objective truth, which was later on rejected by the postmodern literature. And according to postmodern literature, we cannot ignore individual, we cannot ignore subjective element of a literary piece of work. Okay, so my dear students, that was basically their doctrine. Then we after drawing a comparison of modernism and postmodernism, my dear students, will talk about the present age, okay, which is till date. Okay, so what are basically the trends which we are following till date? Okay, so our focus would be on this one. So my dear students, in order to sum up today's lecture, I just want to explain revise some of the points from today's lecture. We took a start with what is basically literature, and we talked about history and literature, and then what is history of literature, and then we move towards what is period. My dear students, here you can see that was an introductory lecture about history of English literature. Okay, so my dear students, when we will move towards the detailed history of English literature, then we will talk about different genres in the history of English literature as well. Okay, for example, about novel, about poetry, drama, prose, essays, and many other things. Okay, my dear students, here then you will be able to analyze to do a comparative study of different genres along with different ages. So my dear student, the point here to remember is that literature is a reflection of life. It is based on truth, it is based on beauty. So this is about human life, their actions, okay, about their intentions, about their souls, in order to know about any particular nation, about any particular society. So this is very much important to read its literature, because that is an autobiography of that very society. My dear students, here I just don't want to tell you the year by year description of different events in the history of English literature. Definitely you should know the importance of these events, the historical, sociological, you can say cultural, religious factors which are involved in the formulation of text, in the development of certain themes, in the development of certain subject matters, you can say in order to have a clear-cut idea about the style as well. So you'll have to take care of all these things in future while talking about history of English literature. This is you'll have to take history of English literature like a story, okay, there are certain events in the story in form of plot. So So my dear students, this is, you'll have to arrange them logically in your mind, okay? The concept must be clear to you, and you can say the important events of any particular era, or the distinctive features of, you can say, any particular age, or the writer's contribution, to that very particular era. So my dear students, these are the things which you have to keep in mind while talking about history of English literature. So my dear students, basically the point here is that when you talk about writer's contribution, so definitely the most, he or she would be having the most, you can say, suitable style, which is the true depiction of that very era. So my dear students, here we are not going to focus on all, the minor, literary figures of that time only. We'll just talk about the most prominent, or you can say the eminent figures of any particular era in the future lectures. So my dear students, hope you'll be able to digest the things in a good way, and you'll learn a lot from history of English literature. So my dear students, this is my surety to you people that you will enjoy this course a lot. When we'll be talking about different historical events, so definitely those are in form of a kind of, you can say, story, okay? So we'll talk about different styles. So my dear students, in future everything would be so helpful for you when you will be analyzing poetry or drama or novel, because everything would be clear in your mind, like the historical development of English literature, what was basically the scenario at that time, what was people's mentality at that time, what kind of problems people were facing during any particular kind of era. So from the point of view of analysis, history of English literature is very much important subject. So my dear students, by keeping in view the historical development of English literature, we'll have a look on this subject from multi perspectives, okay? From a sociological perspective, religious, political, economical, and psychological perspectives as well. So my dear students, this is a kind of a subject where you'll study all other things which are there in the society and which are very much important in the formulation of text, okay? So a text that is in front of you in form of poem, for example, so that is not a text. What are basically the factors which are involved in the formulation of text? Those are very much important in literature. So definitely you'll have to focus on all those aspects. So I'll share some poems with you as well, okay, of written by some eminent writers. So definitely you'll be able to get to know about those writers in a very good way, okay? So my dear student, that is all about today. So today's lecture has been taken from these two sources, so you can note down these two references, okay? So that is all about today. In the next lecture we'll explore literature more, okay? So that is all about the study of literature, and then the importance of history in studying literature, because this is really a very, very expansive course, and English literature doesn't have a history of 1 century only, or a few years only. So you can say like it got developed with the passage of time. So we'll focus on each and everything, okay? So my dear student, that is all about today. So hope you enjoyed your first lecture with me. Have a nice time. Allah Hafiz.